Om Sahana Vavato Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, may the Lord protect us both, the teacher and the taught, together by revealing knowledge. May the Lord protect us both by giving us the results of knowledge. May we attain vigor together. Let what we study be illuminating. May we not cavil at each other. Om, peace, peace, peace. So, Katha Upanishad. We had done we are on this second chapter, second section, eighth mantra. We had done the eighth mantra, and we'll proceed from there. What's going on here? The original question of Nachiketa about death, the deeper meaning of that was the nature of the self. What happens after death? What is the nature of the self? Do we die at physical death? And the answer is no, we go on to other lives. But then what's the point of all of that? What are we actually? And then Yama, the teacher, uses that question as an occasion to teach Vedanta, that we are actually not this physical body which dies at death. I mean, that is absolutely sure. It dies at death. We are not even this subtle body, this mind, this personality, this limited individuality, which survives physical death. But that's not good news because it goes on to other existences. This kind of existence just continues in various iterations in different forms. And the problems also will be there. But beyond that, Vedanta says that we are unlimited existence, consciousness, bliss, the ultimate reality of the universe, which is your own reality. And if we realize that, we are forever released from suffering. We attain fulfillment. So that teaching, Yama uses this question to give that teaching, and he took his time to come to it. As we have been studying, he tested Nachiketa to see whether he is fit for this knowledge. And then once he decided that Nachiketa is fit to receive this knowledge, he spent some time talking about the initial preparations, the control of the senses, focus of the mind, and so on. The analogy of the chariot, if you remember. So I keep forgetting, is it an analogy or a metaphor? I keep mixing up the two. So that one, and then he comes to the actual teaching, which is what is going on now. So these mantras are very valuable because they are the heart of Vedanta, the heart of Advaita Vedanta. They talk about the real nature of reality itself, of the world itself. And that real nature of this world, of this universe, is your real nature. This Atman, Brahman, oneness. So that's what he's talking about. Just by the way, somebody sent me this interesting video of about the latest Nobel Prize in physics. And they say physics, the Nobel Prize is for proving the universe is not real locally. So again, all of those are very technical terms, as I learned. So what is reality? That's subject to cause and effect. And so local reality would mean there's strict cause and effect locally and not beyond, because causality is limited by the speed of light also, because information cannot travel faster than light. And then they bring in the concept of quantum entanglement. Does that violate this local causality? And they say, yes, it does. The experiments proved. So across incredible distances also, two particles seem to exchange information, proving that this idea of local reality is not true. That's anyway, as much as I get out of that. So yeah, in a different way. Notice the same idea, not in the way classical Advaita Vedanta is talking about it, but we are looking at it from outside, as it were, and coming to very much the same conclusions. The appearance nature of this world, the underlying oneness, and the crucial importance of consciousness to all of this. These are same ingredients, whether it is in modern physics or in the inside out view investigations of Advaita Vedanta and yoga. Maybe. So the eighth mantra said, Ya esha suptesha jagarti kamam kamam purusho nirmimana tadeva shukram tad brahma tadeva amritam uchyate tasmin loka ashrita sarve tadu natyeti kaschana etadvaitat. That's what we did last time. What does it mean? Here Yama is telling Nachiketa about the ultimate reality. And what is the ultimate reality of this universe? It's nothing other than you. And the way, what you, which you, this body, no. This mind, thoughts, feelings, emotions, not even that. He says it's consciousness. What is this consciousness? He says that through which you use the mind and the senses and contact an external world, so-called external world, and have these waking experiences. And when the body falls asleep, the mind is still awake, and the mind conjures up its own objects, thoughts, emotions, images, dreams, and the same consciousness reveals those dreams and gives you a dream experience. Then the mind falls asleep completely, and the same consciousness reveals the blankness that ensues when senses are not active, mind is not active, consciousness continues. This non-sleeping, ever awake consciousness, you are, he says. And he says that is amritam uchyate, that is immortal. Body is mortal, mind is ever changing, but that pure consciousness, a consciousness in itself, is immortal, and you are that. Further, he says tasmin loka shritaha. It's not just that you are just this little flash of consciousness there, and then there's this vast universe. No, this vast universe is set in, grounded in that consciousness. This is the incredible conclusion, claim of Advaita Vedanta. If you don't do that, if you stop that earlier stage that you are consciousness, and then there is this world, that is Sankhya, but matter, consciousness, duality. But now he's saying all of matter, so-called matter, external matter means the world outside. And internal matter means our thoughts, feelings, emotions, this personality which I call Sarvapriyananda, all of that is an appearance in the consciousness which I am. And then, since the whole universe is set in that consciousness, there must be this one consciousness common to all of us. Tadu natyeti kaschana. There's nothing that exceeds it. That's nothing that lies outside of it. Everything is included in it and not really included in it. Included in it would be like a bag or a box in which you have put everything. Not like that. It is that one consciousness alone which appears as this universe. Not that there is a consciousness, there is a universe, and somehow the universe has been stuffed into that consciousness. No. Etadvaita, this is what you had asked for, O Nachiketa. This indeed is that. That what you had asked for. Now, Yama will give three famous examples which reverberate throughout the centuries, in Indian texts. Fire example, air example, and sun example. Agni, Vayu, Surya. Fire, air or wind, and the sun as examples. Remember, what we're going to read now, we're not going to read about fire, or we're not going to read about the atmosphere. We're not even interested in, we're not solar scientists. No, those are just examples to try to prove a point or to demonstrate something, point out something about consciousness, which is you. So always very interesting, because it's about you all the time, pointing back to you. And who doesn't love to be, pointed back at oneself? We are our own favorite subjects. 9. Agniryathaiko bhuvanam pravishto rupam rupam pratirupo babhuva ekas tatha sarva bhutantaratma rupam rupam pratirupo bahischa. Beautiful and powerful mantras. Just attend to it, you'll see how inspiring it is. What does it mean? Just as fire, though one, having entered the world, assumes separate forms in respect of different shapes, similarly, the self inside all beings, though one, appears a form, assumes a form in respect of each shape, and yet it is outside. All right, let's try to understand this. First of all, fire. what is meant by fire, it's a principle. It's not just one, like a forest fire which broke out somewhere, a particular fire, not like that. It's the principle of heat. So there is heat all over the universe. There is heat pervading our body. That's how we are alive. Heat is life. There is heat in the atmosphere. That's why we are not freezing. There is heat in the water, in the soil, even in outer space. There is some basal level of heat going very far out into the solar system also. So heat is all pervasive. Life depends on heat, basically. And when you have a fire, so actual fire which we can see, and it lights up, and it becomes really hot. So in this way of thinking, that's just a manifestation of already existing heat. That's just an intensification. So it comes to our notice. And then the fire engine comes and then tries to put it out or something. And there is smoke and heat, and there's a huge hue and cry. But basically, it says heat is all pervasive. Everywhere heat is there. And as a matter of fact, physics will tell you, thermodynamics will tell you that of course it's there. Heat is there everywhere. But this one heat, all pervasive, when it bursts out into flame, a log, a fireplace, or a matchstick, or wherever, or somewhere, God forbid, a building on fire. So fire, when it breaks out into fire, you say, oh, there's a fire. It becomes perceptible. It's something that we can experience. I'm explaining the example first, and then we'll go into Brahman or Atman or consciousness. So all pervasive, invisible heat occasionally becomes manifested when you, for example, burn something, and then there is more heat, and then there's light and smoke, and so we call it a fire. But it's already existing heat which is manifest. So sometimes it becomes perceptible. Just like that, Yama wants to say consciousness is actually all pervasive. But when it's reflected in particular minds and bodies, then it becomes perceptible, experienceable. Where? And just like fire. So say, where's the fire? There, you are one such fire. I am one such fire. All these people sitting around, these are all such fires. Consciousness becomes manifest here. How is it perceptible? Just like a fire, the heat becomes perceptible. You can feel the heat. It's crackling. It gives up light and smoke. Similarly, consciousness becomes manifest here. How does it become manifest? Not that you burst into flame, but something pretty much like it. Pretty much like it. You begin to see. You begin to hear and smell and taste and touch. You begin to think and remember and feel pain and enjoy and suffer. You begin to act, do things. And this whole mechanism is lit up by the presence of consciousness. And then all other, sense organs, motor organs, they kick into action. The mind kicks into action. It is powered by prana, the life forces. So this is like a fire. Just like a fire, it can be lit and it can be extinguished. It is lit when it's born, and when this body perishes, that particular fire goes out. But you don't go out, because you are never that fire anyway. You are not this body. You are not this mind. You are not the body mind, bursting into flame when the consciousness is reflected into that. No, you are the consciousness itself. You remain imperceptible at the death of the physical body. It becomes perceptible when a living body is created. It is still one principle. Just as, okay, the second thing, when heat bursts into flame, and there are multiple fires here and there after a natural disaster, or forest fires, for example, in California. So forest fires, you have multiple fires. So it seems to have this fire and that fire. But if you look at it as underlying principle of heat, it's not this heat or that heat. Physics will tell you heat is one principle. It's there pervading. Similarly, consciousness is one consciousness, but when it lights up various bodies and minds, we say many consciousnesses. Here, the Zoom is telling us 71 people are there in this meeting, in this class. So there's 71. How many fires are burning here? 71. How many consciousnesses are here? 71. But actually underlying one consciousness. Which one am I? This one, each of these 71, actually one consciousness. Practically, for our transactional purposes, we behave as if we are 71. Zoom also counts us as 71. We also behave like individuals, and like fires behave individually, but it's all underlying one. So one underlying consciousness appears as many. And the one underlying I, the real I, appears as many apparent I. What's the connection? Crucial point. What's the connection between pure consciousness and this apparent consciousness? The real I and this apparent I. I mean the vertical I, not this. So what is the connection? The real I, the real consciousness, is the one which lights up, powers, so to say, the apparent consciousness is here in all this. Just as the principle of heat is that which makes all fires possible. So this is another thing. So one is perceptible, imperceptible. Another one is that yes, somebody has said upadhi. I think Prabir Babu, correct. This is the Vedantic concept of upadhi. I'm coming to that. Now, if I ask, what is the form of the fire? As heat, as the principle of heat pervading the entire universe, no form. But as fire, it has a form. When a log of fire burns, you'll see this crackling, fiery, like a log. Another example is in old Sanskrit texts is of a red hot iron ball. So they had furnaces in those days. Metal work is a very ancient thing. So aya golaka, red hot iron ball. So the ball is made of iron and it's round, a sphere. And the fire which enters into, heat which enters into it, makes it red hot in a furnace. Now that fire, that also takes a shape. What shape? The shape of the heated object. The fire which burns a log, burning log, the fire there takes a particular shape. What is the shape? The shape of that burning log. Shankaracharya in his commentary says, often it takes the form of the fuel which is burning. So if there's a particular form, it takes that fuel. What's the point? Consciousness takes a form. What form does it take? The conscious body, the fuel which is burning here. So that consciousness, as it is formless, not only formless, it's not even an object, it is a pure subject, but it takes a form. Here, so many forms. And we feel it. I am this conscious being. So it's like fire burning a particular piece of log or something, and the fire seems to have taken that log-like shape or an iron ball, spherical shape, so on. Similarly, consciousness seems to take the shape of the body which is lit up by consciousness. More subtle and more direct. Consciousness takes the shape of our thoughts. So every thought we have, every memory we have, every desire we have, every negative feeling of pain and suffering and dissatisfaction we have, all are lit up by consciousness. And all seem to be conscious. That's why in modern consciousness studies, they don't make a distinction between mind and consciousness. Here is the key. Why is it not? Why the distinction is not made? Because consciousness seems to have taken up that form. Consciousness seems to be the mind now. The Sanskrit words are so well designed, The word for pure consciousness is chit. Chit. You can say it's CHIT. And the word for mind is chitta, CHITTA. One ta is added, chitta. One sadhu in Uttarakhand used to say, chittam chiditi vijaniyat, takaro vishayadhyasa. The mind, know the mind itself to be pure consciousness. There's a door to enlightenment. No, because the mind is something that we are perceiving all the time. We're experiencing the mind all the time. Know the mind itself to be pure consciousness, except the ta which is added is, he says, a very technical term, vishayadhyasa, the superimposition of object. If you can empty the mind of all object, pure consciousness alone is left. Rupert Spira put it very nicely. He said, He said something very, very perceptive. Awareness of objects eclipses awareness of awareness. So awareness of objects, when same consciousness, it illumines the most subtle objects are thoughts, feelings, emotions, ego. When it's illumined, then those objects, thoughts, feelings, especially the ego, I, it occludes, eclipses awareness itself. And therefore, the Patanjali yoga method is to extinguish, at least temporarily, the experience of objects. So close your eyes, don't see, don't hear, don't smell, taste, or touch, don't move, don't talk, even mentally, don't think. Very difficult. Don't think. Stop. When you stop, then the awareness is there, objects are removed, even temporarily for a short while. Then awareness of awareness, it becomes clear. This is the yogic approach, not Advaitic approach. I would want you to understand this. This is crucial. What was Rupert Spira's statement? Awareness of objects eclipses awareness of awareness. So the yogi will try to stop the awareness of objects, remove the objects. You can't stop awareness. You can only remove the objects by yogic samadhi. And then you realize that you are awareness. That's one way. The Advaitic way is not that awareness of objects eclipses the awareness of awareness. No, it is ignorance which eclipses the awareness of awareness. When you are watching a movie, you can say the movie is hiding the screen. And the hero and the scenery and the action scenes and the emotional scenes, they're all hiding the screen, the movie screen. So what do? Then immediately the thing will be to switch off the pictures. Then you can see the movie screen. But that's the yogic approach. But you might say, Swami, it doesn't mean that you have to switch off the movie. Once you know what the movie screen is, even while watching a movie, is the screen really hidden? Is the screen really hidden? It is a screen alone which is appearing to you as the movie. Once you know what the screen is, you'll say, I'm seeing the movie, I'm seeing the screen also, of course, because I'm looking directly at the screen. So the Advaitin will say, what is hiding the screen from you is your ignorance of what a screen is. When you realize what is a screen, even when the movie is going on, you know that you are experiencing this the screen. Similarly, if your ignorance about Brahman is removed, if you know what you are, not the body, not the mind, the witness consciousness, then in every experience, the witness consciousness will be revealed. You don't have to stop experiences. So this distinction between the yogic insight and the Advaitic insight, I must stress this. This is crucial. The yogic, then it will make a big difference in our sadhana. The yogic insight will insist, then once you have got this ready, then you have to meditate. You have to seriously shut down and sit quietly and quieten the, like cut out the external world, quieten the mind, and then turn inwards, hoping for those crucial moments of absolute stillness when it becomes clear to you. That will be the approach. A careful and consistent, deep meditation. Very difficult. And the Advaitic approach is an inquiry, trying to appreciate what consciousness is, using the mind, listening to the talks, reading the book, sitting quietly and observing and thinking. Yes. And then, so by inquiry, to put it in one word, in yoga, the method is dhyana, samadhi. In Advaita, the method is vichara, inquiry. However, in Advaita, it doesn't mean that meditation or samadhi is not useful, very much useful. You will try and see what happens in Advaitic inquiry is, it doesn't take you very far because our minds are so fickle and weak, the inquiry doesn't take hold. So it requires, the Advaita uses meditation to strengthen, focus the mind. to make the inquiry strong and consistent. Otherwise, it won't work. It will just, at best, it will remain some kind of understanding. In fact, Shankaracharya says in the introduction to lead up to this mantra, he says, although this teaching has already been given, let me read out the English translation of what Shankaracharya has said as an introduction to this mantra. Since the knowledge of the unity of the self, unity here doesn't mean two things are being united, it means one self, one underlying consciousness. Though validated by proof and reiterated more than once, does not find a lodging in the hearts of those Brahmanas of insincere intellect, whose minds are swayed by the perverted intellect of numerous logicians. Therefore, the Upanishad, being eager to inculcate it, says again and again. So multiple examples are being given. Shankaracharya's whole point is there. He's following the method of inquiry, vichara, but he says it doesn't lodge firmly. Insincere means here fickle minds. That means you get it, but don't stay with it. Again, you slip away somehow. So, just as fire takes the form of the fuel, similarly, consciousness, quote unquote, doesn't actually take any form, but quote unquote seems to have taken. This is a description of our world right now. I, the consciousness, have taken the Sarvapriyananda form. I, the consciousness, have taken all the thoughts, feelings, emotions, memories here, going on here. Apparently taken, but not really. So those forms are appearances in consciousness. It's not that consciousness has somehow become those forms. But just because they are appearances doesn't mean they won't work. They will work. Just as a car in a movie definitely works. If the hero is driving a car, suddenly you realize it's a movie. Will the car stop working? It's a movie car. How can you expect it to work? No, everything works perfectly in the movie. Similarly, all science, all technology, everything will work perfectly in this world of appearances. The underlying reality is what Vedanta is interested in. And then, now he comes to the air example, another example. Same point, another example. Vayoryathayiko bhuvanam pravishto rupam rupam pratirupa babhuva ekas tatha sarva bhutantaratma rupam rupam pratirupo bahischa. As air, though one, having entered into this world, assumes separate forms in respect of different shapes, similarly the self inside all beings, though one, assumes a form in respect of each shape, and yet it is outside. I forgot to stress the word bahi, outside, very interesting word. It means transcendent. So just like heat, the principle of heat, if one fire starts and the fire is extinguished, heat is not extinguished. It just becomes imperceptible. Consciousness, it enters into everything in this world, every existing thing, especially living beings. There it becomes manifest, like a thing bursting into flame. And yet it remains transcendent. Nothing here in this body or the mind can actually affect that pure consciousness, which is you. You are not polluted, damaged, sinful, none of it, no causality there affects you. That's why I was thinking it matches quite interestingly with the idea of the non-locality of reality, which this new physics thing is talking about. Anyway, that's also an example. If Yama knew, he would have used that as an example. So bahi means transcendent, and that point will come up again. It's external to or transcendent. It transcends this world of appearances, just as, I can put it this way, everything in the movie, the cars and the characters, the good guys and the bad guys and the sky and the earth, everything is pervaded by the movie screen, and yet the movie screen remains external to the movie. It's not affected by events in the movie. Nothing that happens in the movie has anything to do with the screen, except the screen makes it all possible. If there's a great inferno in a movie, the screen is not burnt. If there is a great flood in the movie, screen doesn't become wet, and so on. Similarly, he says, as this great atmosphere, having entered into this world, assumes separate forms in respect of different shapes. Similarly, the self inside all beings. So inside all beings, when he says Atma inside all beings, inside means not that the beings are there and there's one self inside each of them. It is the Atman which is appearing as all of these beings. It's like saying the gold inside all ornaments. It's not that there are a bunch of ornaments and some gold has been put into them. It's the gold alone which appears as all these ornaments, the clay alone which appears as all this pottery. And it enters into all beings. Another good example Sadhu gave, when you play musical, air instruments. So somebody, when you play a whistle or a flute, or a jazz musician plays the saxophone, the sound is different. The range of sounds you can produce, the music that you can produce, each instrument is clearly different and has a different style of functioning, all of that. But the air that you blow into each of them is exactly the same. That's a nice example. You play a range of musical instruments with a little whistle and a flute and a saxophone and a trumpet, whatnot, and a conch shell. I remember conch shell, that reminded me. There was a British delegation from British Council in Calcutta. They were visiting the Belur Mutt, and I think I was asked to show them around. It was evening, the time of Arati. So I was showing them around. And this is the main temple of Sri Ramakrishna. This is the old temple. And there is the Swami Vivekananda's room. So they were a group, 4 or 5. They were following me closely and listening to what I said and nodding. And suddenly, just before Arati in the evening in Belur Mutt, the conch, in any Hindu temple, the conch will be blown. So the conch is blown. Then suddenly I saw the delegation was not with me anymore. They had all disappeared. So I went back to look for them. I saw them all gathered around the monk who was blowing the conch. And one of them was excitedly explaining to the other, that's actually the skeleton of a dead sea creature. And that is, air is being blown through that to produce this particular sound. So they were all fascinated and taking pictures of the monk blowing the conch. But the example is very nice. Whatever you're blowing, a conch, a flute, a whistle, a saxophone, a trumpet, the air that you blow into each instrument is exactly the same air. And yet, what different forms of sounds it takes. Similarly, he says, another example is the air having entered into different forms. What forms does the air enter into? Into us. Remember, prana, vayu and prana are connected. So the very breath in our lungs, into each of us, it has entered, into every living creature. And then it sustains. Prana sustains. Prana literally means the life forces. It sustains these living bodies. Look at the variety of bodies. Look at the variety of life forms among human beings and non-humans. It's the same prana. Similarly, it is the same consciousness having entered or appearing as. You can say entered or appearing as all of these beings. Yet it is one. Just as the air is one. All the effects are many. And it appears as all these forms, as the prana appears as all these living bodies. Appears as living bodies means it is these living bodies, the life is sustained by prana. Yet it is one. And it is external. If all living beings were to perish, the great atmosphere would still be there. Vayu would still be there. If all these bodies were to perish, you, the Atman, would still be there, but you would not be perceptible. Just like the heat would still be there if all fires were extinguished. If the living bodies died, prana would still be there. Similarly, if the entire universe were to disappear, you, Atman, Brahman, would still be there, but not perceptible, not experienceable, not doing anything. Nothing would be happening. It would just be pure subjective existence without any external objective manifestation. All right, that's what happens in Vedanta, in Pralaya, when the cosmic dissolution, the universe is dissolved and only Ishvara exists with Maya. So there's no projection, no objective universe. And then the objective universe is projected again. That is Srishti, creation. All right. Now, the next one is the, so fire example, air example, and now the sun example. This is a very beautiful example, powerful example. This is 11. Suryo yatha sarva lokasya chakshu na lipyate chakshushair bahya doshe ekas tatha sarva bhutantaratma na lipyate loka dukkhe na bahya. Just as the sun, which is the eye of the whole world, is not tainted by the ocular and external defects, similarly the self, that is but one in all beings, is not tainted by the sorrows of the world, it being transcendental. Okay. So, important mantra. What is the result of all of this? A question may be raised. I'm telling you according to the commentary by Shankara. A question may be raised that if you are the self in all beings, you will suffer. This one self, it suffers so much in this body. I, this consciousness, yes, I'm consciousness. I see, hear, smell, taste, touch, true. But because of that, I have pain, I have suffering. Disease causes me suffering. Physical pain causes me suffering. Emotional pain causes me even more suffering. And then old age, disease, death, those will cause me suffering. Mine, this body's, and for others also. So being a self, a conscious self, is no great thing. You know, it leaves me vulnerable to so much suffering. And if I'm the self in all of these suffering individual beings, how much suffering I will get? So he says, won't this consciousness be subject to suffering? And then he gives the sun example. He says, no. Consciousness, your real nature, is not at all affected by the actual existing suffering of the world. You are not affected. Why not? First of all, the example. He says, just as Suryo, what he says, he says, Bhuvanasya Chakshu, I think he says, Sarva Lokasya Chakshu. Beautiful poetic expression. The sun is the eye of all the worlds. The sun is the eye means the sunlight enables us to see. It's not literally the eye. Sunlight enables all beings to see in daylight. So all living beings which have eyes, they can see because of sunlight. So that which enables us to see, in that sense, it is the eye of the world. Sarvaloka, of all the world, the sun is the eye. And because it enables us to see. How is it connected to Atman consciousness? Consciousness is that which enables us to see. See, this is a beautiful example. What is it that gives us the experience of seeing and hearing and smelling and tasting and touching and thinking and remembering and being a person and desiring and hating and waking and dreaming and sleeping? All these experiences which we call our life. What makes it possible? Don't say the sun. It's consciousness. It is the internal sun. So Atman consciousness in Vedanta is often compared to the sun. It's the internal sun. It is you. You are ever blazing forth with undimmed light. And it is your light which illumines the mind. And it is the lit up mind which illumines the sensory processes. And these senses being lit up, you can see the world, you can hear the sounds, you can smell and taste and touch and all of that. So all experiences in our life are made possible by this one eye, EYEI. What eye? Within quotes, eye of consciousness, or eye of consciousness, it just means consciousness. And you are that. This is where the Katha Upanishad actually begins. We will read it sometime in the years ahead. The first mantra of the Katha Upanishad. Kene shitam patati preshitam mana kene shitam vachamimam vadanti chakshu shrotram kaudeva yunakti. So I forgot the whole thing. So basically what it means is, impelled by what do these thoughts come in my mind? Do I have experience of thinking? From where do these words come up? How do I see, and what makes seeing possible, hearing possible, this breathing possible? So all motor organs, sensory organs, what he means is the experience of it all. He's not asking about the visual system, the auditory system. He's not asking a question of physiology. is asking a question of our experience. And nowadays it's even more clear, because nowadays you have all these machines with sensors, which can, after a certain fashion, they can see, hear, and touch it, all of that. I mean, when you walk into the airport, doesn't the door slide open? When you put your hand under in the sink and on the tap, doesn't the water come out by itself? So in a certain sense, quote unquote, it's seeing you or sensing you. You would say, what's the point? But does that sensor have any internal state of seeing, a conscious experience of seeing? No, it doesn't. It's just a physical process. Similarly, our eyes, ears, and all of these are biological instruments. There's some biological process going on there. What is the spark that makes it all light up with experience? That's consciousness. And of course, reflected consciousness here. Pravir Babu had introduced a term, upadhi. Let me just mention it. It's a technical term in Vedanta, but very important. Upadhi is that by holding on to which, whose properties are transferred to consciousness, appears to be transferred to consciousness. A good example is crystal or glass. Here is glass. See, it's clear glass. You can see it here. Clear glass. Now, watch this glass. If I put the orange robe behind it, now the glass seems orange. See, it's clear. Now it seems orange. Is the glass orange? Not at all. It's the proximity of this upadhi, the orange robe, which makes the clear glass seem orange. So this upadhi is that which seems to be transferring its properties. What property? Orange color to the glass which is otherwise clear. A red robe would transfer red color to it. In fact, the example is japa kusuma, spatika japa kusuma, a red flower and colorless crystal. That's the example, which is transparent crystal, example which is often used in Vedanta. So that which has no color appears to have colors, and even multiple colors. So Maya conjures up these upadhis. What are these upadhis? Mind and senses and body and external objects. And consciousness seems to be colored and seems to be like, I am a thinker, I see, I hear. There are objects to see, there are sounds to hear. All of these are upadhis. And they are names and forms and activities conjured up by Maya, and then it appears in consciousness. Then, so now the sunlight example, the next thing is that just as sunlight is the eye of the entire world, we have understood this. Then the Yama says, notice, this sunlight is not affected by the defects of what it illumines. Everything in this world is illumined by sunlight. But there might be, so sunlight shines equally upon the water and the Ganga, the pure water of the Ganga, the most pure river. I mean, spiritually pure, not actually physically. Now they're cleaning it up, luckily. Then it shines upon the drain water, ditch water, equally. Is the sunlight purified by the Ganga water it shines upon? Does the sunlight become impure by the ditch water it shines upon? No, it's completely unaffected by the defects of the external objects which it illumines. Even the eyes are unaffected by the objects they see. You see, when we look at, so in the Dharma Shastras, they tell us about what should be seen and what should not be seen. Something is sinful to see, something is holy to see. So there are certain things which are good to see. So, for example, the forms, the divine forms of gods and goddesses, or a beautiful nature. I was taking a walk in the park. Extraordinary fall colors, very stunning. Good. It uplifts the mind. Remember, the external beauty is not the point, nor is the selfie the point, or the pictures the point. The point is that should elevate the mind. A sense of sublime feeling should come in the mind. So those are good to see because they create a good impact on the mind. There are things which are maybe sinful or bad or negative to see. So those defects, but they actually do not affect the eye, which sees them. So the point there is, whatever you see, hear, smell, taste, touch, whatever you think, remember, enjoy, suffer, none of it pollutes or damages the consciousness which you are. So you are entirely safe from all. You are experiencing the entire world, life after life, and you're safe from the world. So that is an incredible thing that has just been said. You may even one may experience sorrow, loss, intense physical pain, and yet you are safe. It will come, it will go, and you will still remain the same consciousness. Even when it is there, that's the incredible thing about Advaita Vedanta. Even in the midst of that suffering, you're still all right as consciousness. So by internal or external impurities, internal impurities means thoughts, impure thoughts. Thoughts may be impure, but the consciousness which illumines those impure thoughts is not affected. And suffering, where is suffering? Apparently, it might be outside. COVID is outside. That annoying person is outside. But then actually it comes to us through our body. So suffering is more than outside, it's in the body. More than the body, it's in the mind. If you don't believe it, go to the ICU in Mount Sinai or somewhere. You'll see people who are terribly ill, suffering. But actually when they are in sleep or in a coma or in, under sedation, they're not suffering. Because you need the mind to suffer. If the mind is shut down, or if the mind is not connected to the suffering, you don't suffer actually. So, but the consciousness which illumines the suffering, the presence of suffering, the presence of pain, presence of disease, presence of death also, it illumines. But the consciousness itself is not in pain, nor in sorrow, nor does it die. This is a very big point which has just been made. Then Shankaracharya, it's important for Advaita Vedanta, so he rolls out his Advaitic machinery here. He says that a rope may appear as a snake, that the seashell can appear as the nacre can appear as silver. In the desert, there may be water, like a mirage appears as water, or there may be dust. The sky may seem dirty. Little kids think the sky needs to be scrubbed, it's become dirty. It hasn't. Similarly, it may seem that I, the consciousness, am suffering. But actually, just as there's no connection of a snake with the rope, no connection of the mirage water with the actual desert, the sand of the desert. In another place, Shankaracharya says, all the water in the mirage is not enough to wet one grain of sand in the desert. Exactly like that. And the nacre and the silver example, also a classical example. Sometimes this nacre, like a seashell, it flashes on the beach and looks like silver. So somebody mistook it for silver, but it's no silver, it just looks like that. Just as it has no connection with that. Where does it come from? Shankaracharya says the mechanism of that is a confusion in the mind of the onlooker. The onlooker is confused, does not know that it's a rope, and because of the similarity between rope and snake, thinks it's a snake. The rope itself is not affected by let alone the snake, even by the confusion of the onlooker. So here is the subtle and important point. All our problems are the confusion of this mind. And we think, I am hurting, I am in sorrow, I am old, I am lonely, I am dying. All mind. The real I, consciousness, is neither in sorrow, nor hurting, nor lonely, nor is it going to die. The real consciousness, the real self, the real I, is like the rope, not like the snake. Just as the so-called snake has no connection with the rope and has no effect on the rope, similarly, the afflictions of the body, of the mind, have no connection to pure consciousness and have no effect upon it. And yet they depend on pure consciousness, on Atman, because without that they wouldn't appear at all. They wouldn't be there at all. Bahihi, external. This word is very important. Shankaracharya says, you are independent. You transcend the appearances of body-mind. And therefore, you are safe from all those problems. Ekaha, Surya, just as one sun illumines the eye of the entire world, it's one consciousness. illumines the experiences in all bodies and minds. So we are one self. Sarva Bhutantaratma. Again and again, this term is being used. The self of all sentient beings, of all beings. The self of all beings. The inner self of all beings. Sarva Bhuta Antaratma. What do you mean inner? The body is external. Mind is in between. Inner to the mind. That which illumines the mind. And through the mind illumines the senses and the body. That is the inner self. Whose inner self? Yours and his and hers and mine. All of that is one inner self. Same thing, and see how consistent it is. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says to Arjuna, Kshetragyam chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. O Arjuna, in all these fields, know me alone to be the knower of the field. One knower of the field, one consciousness in all bodies and minds, appearing to be many. One fire, one principle of heat, appearing to be many fires, bursting forth and extinguished. One air, atmosphere, appearing to be many living beings when it's like the breath in our lungs seems to be separate life. It's one life. Very good examples. Let me look at the questions. Girish says, the yogic path to enlightenment deterministic or probabilistic? In other words, is following the recommended process, cultivating a pure heart, doing good deeds and practicing Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana still a throw of the dice? Could say your karma determines that, or somewhat unsatisfactory. No, not a throw of the dice. Always you will become enlightened. Now, you might say the question is, why is so few people who are enlightened then? But then we are seeing only a tiny slice of time and space in this little life. From a Vedantic perspective, you are the Atman. What can prevent you from realizing your own self, which is always available to you? Something in this world we may be able to attain, we may fail to attain. But our self-realization, you are the self after all. What can really stop you? You will, Kashmiri Shaivism goes even further, that you will realize it when you want to. There's nothing stopping you except yourself. When you want to become enlightened, you will become enlightened. What can stop Shiva from becoming free? Shiva is always free. It is the Leela, the play of Shiva, that Shiva is pretending to be not free. You might say, no, but now I want to be free. So why am I not free? Then the Kashmiri Shaivis will say that you don't want to be free. Now you want to be a spiritual seeker. So you're now a spiritual seeker. The moment you see that enough of being a spiritual seeker, now let me be enlightened. That moment you'll be enlightened. That is Kashmiri Shaivism. Advaita doesn't go so far. Advaita says that you have ignorance and you have to work towards removing that ignorance. Then you will see that not only are free, you always were free. It was always all right. That's what you will see. Patanjali Yoga says that to remove the ignorance, calming the mind is necessary. Samadhi is necessary. Bhakti path says all of this, try as much as you will see it you don't make much of a progress. 1 inch here or there. You take the help of a much greater power, and that is Ishvara or Bhagavan or God. Take the help of that power in your day-to-day life, in your life, so-called life in the world, and take the help of that power, especially in your spiritual life. That is the path of bhakti, and that power exists. So these are different paradigms. The bhakti paradigm, the yogic paradigm, and the Advaitic paradigm. So will it work? Yes, absolutely. I've told this often earlier. This is the same question which was asked by Professor Parimal Patil. He is a philosophy professor at Harvard University. Why are so few people enlightened? What will your answer be, Swami? So I said, I gave him 2 answers. One is that it's not that so few people are enlightened, maybe just in our experience, in our time, but eventually everybody will be enlightened because this is our real nature and it's bound to happen. Not only that, that's the whole purpose. According to Vedanta, the whole purpose of the universe is that, to drive you towards enlightenment, God realization. So that's the idea. So what can stop you? This is the point of life itself. The second reason I gave him, second argument I gave him was, why should one stick to spirituality if enlightenment is such a remote prospect? The second argument was, once you get a taste of this, what else will you do? This is the best thing in life. You have to lead your life, of course, but you will never let go of spirituality. That's why for monks, for devotees who ask this question, I've seen senior monks say that, all right, stop. Don't meditate, don't come to Vedanta class, don't turn up in the ashram. Forget it. You've done enough in this life. Forget it. Maybe next time life you can pick up. Now go and enjoy your life. And the response is, no, no, no. I can't do without this. This is very important to me. I remember I myself once, of course, I wasn't brave enough to ask a senior Swami. I asked a senior brahmachari. That was in Deoghar many years ago. So foolish, restless. I told this brahmachari that, oh, I've been here for so many, I don't know, weeks or months, not even 1 year. And I'm not, becoming enlightened. I'm not making spiritual progress in spiritual path. I don't think I'm making progress. And then the brahmachari said, so wisely, he said, all right, go back home. I said, no, I can't do that. And he said, look, that which you called your home for 23 long years since your birth, you've been here barely, what, 2 or 3 weeks or months. And now you say you can't do that. Isn't that progress enough? What a huge change in your life. And it's become natural to you. I said, yeah, that's true. So what else will you do? Once you get the taste of spiritual life in whatever path, in bhakti, in yoga, in Advaita, in Buddhism, whatever. And then I told you also, if you remember, Professor Patil said to me, he said, those two are good examples, but good answers, but they're a little theoretical. And then he said, let me give you another reason why people stick to spiritual life. It is because of the benefits people get from day to day. It's not about becoming enlightened. It will happen, but that's not the point. We are getting benefits from day to day throughout our lives, the strength to live life itself. There's a meaning to life. We get a lot of deep benefit and the strength to face the ups and downs, the shocks in life. And we feel there is meaning here and we are growing spirituality, all these benefits we are getting. And that's why we stick to it, which is a very great answer, I think, wonderful answer. Alpana Chatterjee says, when one begins to understand we are not this play of Maya, the mind feels bound by the shackles of it. Mind dismisses understanding and intellect. How does the mind break free of it? Yes. So our problems are not so much intellectual, actually. Our problems are more at the level of emotion and conditioning. We react instinctively to the problems of life. That's why the yogas are very important. Karma yoga for purification of mind. It makes a huge difference. Then, especially karma yoga, that which seemed theoretical, now will seem a most practical and living philosophy. Advaita. Before the purification of mind, it seemed like a nice and cool philosophy. But how do I face life with this kind of abstract philosophy? With the purification of mind, the same teachings will seem absolutely real. This is real. Bhakti, devotion, very useful. Our real problem is that we are being continuously pulled by the world. And bhakti solves that problem. Because then the pull is channeled towards God. Yoga, meditation, very useful for Advaita. Because no matter what we do, we are not holding on. We are unable to be steady in our realization, understanding. Not that understanding is not there. We are unable to be steady. One sadhu in Uttarakhand, he put it nicely. I'll translate into English. He said, "Prapt gyan ka adar kare." Respect, let's see, respect the knowledge already acquired. Which is such an important teaching. After some time, we realize we have got enormous amounts of knowledge. The saints of old times, they didn't attend so many classes and have libraries of books. Yet they became enlightened because the little that the guru told them, they held on to that steadfastly to the point of death, and then they made the breakthrough. So answer is continue to meditate, cultivate devotion, practice karma yoga along with your Vedanta. One day you'll see Vedanta becomes lit up for you. Sri Ram says the same as mutual superimposition. Yes, Adhyasa, Anyonya Adhyasa is a technical term. If you see Shankara's commentary, he uses the term mutual superimposition, Adhyasa. Michael Bird, if heat is Brahman and we as flames are the heat becoming perceptible, then where does the concept of devotional God fit into this? Would God be the entire form of the universe, the ultimate flame? True. We means the individual beings now are that, it's like the principle of heat, all pervading, now manifest here in this place as one fire. Similarly, one all pervasive consciousness, which I am, manifest here as this personality. But then what is God? God is that same one imperceptible pure consciousness manifest as this bonfire, cosmic bonfire of the universe, all of it together. Abhijit says Patanjali 4, Vritti Sarupya Mitaratra, identification with thought process objects. Is this common in both Patanjali Yoga and Advaita? I understand the solution is different in the two approaches. Yes, common to both. That is the problem. Like Rupert Spira said, awareness of objects eclipses the awareness of awareness. Patanjali Yoga says, then stop the awareness of objects. You can't stop awareness. Good, that's a good thing. But you can, for the time, temporarily, consciously, deliberately shut out objects through deep meditation. Advaita says, no, let's take a little closer look. Is it really that the awareness of objects eclipses awareness of awareness, or the ignorance of what awareness is, that is always eclipsing whatever awareness of awareness? Madhusudan Saraswati, the great commentator on the Bhagavad Gita, a great non-dualist post-Shankara, 500 years after 700 years after Shankara, in one place in his commentary on the Bhagavad Gita, he says, actually there are these two broad paths, the path of meditation and the which is for the followers of Sankhya and Yoga, and the path of Vedantic inquiry for the followers of the Vedic path, he says. And then he makes a comment, for those who consider the world to be real, there is no other way except extinguishing awareness of the world for a time in order to appreciate the reality of who am I. He says this. And then he goes on to say, but it's not necessary for those who are in the path of Advaita Vedanta, because you consider the world to be an appearance of consciousness, just like a movie on a screen. He doesn't say movie on a screen, but I'm adding. So if you understand what a movie is, what a screen is, that's enough to show you the screen. Even when the movie is playing, you don't have to switch up the movie. So these two approaches, he says, these are there. Shiva says, reflected consciousness along with mind takes up a body, manifest in a body as tendencies, reflected consciousness, not pure consciousness, as the heat. Yes. Rick says, Vedanta uses meditation to strengthen, quieten, and purify the mind so their understanding can be clear and abiding. Isn't Patanjali saying the same thing? Regularly dipping into temporary samadhi cultures the mind-body system so that nirvikalpa samadhi eventually dawns. It sounds to me yoga and Vedanta are complementary. They're complementary. They're complementary in a practical sense. Those who are following Advaita Vedanta will soon realize, unless one has already a highly purified and focused mind, and such a thing would be rare without practice. You have to practice meditation. That's why many of the post-Shankara works, not Shankara so much himself, but many of the post-Shankara works of Advaitins, there's always a section on meditation, which is not the core section. The core section is where Tattvamasi, you are that is explained and the truth is pointed out. But the other part of it is meditation to support Advaita. Girish says, you draw a distinction between yoga and Advaita. Isn't Advaita also yoga, Jnana yoga? Correct. Advaita is Jnana yoga, and the yoga which I mentioned was Patanjali yoga, or Dhyana yoga, or Raja yoga, which the term Vivekananda used. So the yoga of meditation, yoga of knowledge. Of course, yoga of bhakti also. Sriram says, to get to that witness, especially when buffeted by distractions, is it good to concentrate on it or to go back to your mantra or self-inquiry, which is more effective? You can't concentrate on the witness. If you're concentrating on something, it's the witness which is concentrating. So what you are concentrating on is not the witness. So everything appears to the witness. You cannot concentrate on the witness. You can only appreciate what the witness is through a process of self-inquiry. So you can use self-inquiry, you can go back to the mantra, depends on the way you have done sadhana. Different things can work at different times. Or you can simply take refuge in God if you're so inclined. At the time of when its mind is being buffeted, one can try all three. One can try self-inquiry, one can try yogic method, that is like a mantra or a focus, some kind of focus, or just sharanagati, surrender to God. Vakya vritti, all right, we'll leave it for the retreat later on. Shri says, is it that so few people are enlightened, or that since I am not enlightened, I recognize them? Both. There are more enlightened people around than one might think, but then it's still true that practically speaking, it is rare. That's why the doubt arises. Inari says, you can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave. Correct. Hotel California by the Eagles. Yes. Vivekananda says, you cannot run away from the machine. You have to learn how to work the machine until the machine sets you free. V. Srinivas Raju says, is it correct to understand awareness of awareness happens at the level of reflected consciousness? Pure consciousness being itself, which is solid, vast, and unassailable. Tos Vastu. Is it correct to understand awareness of awareness happens at the level of reflected? Yeah. Remember, the awareness of awareness is more of an understanding, not a particular experience. So when Rupert Spira uses the term awareness of awareness, Advaita Vedanta calls this self-luminosity. It's always there. It has to be noticed, or it has to be appreciated. It's not something that you do. So I can have awareness of a book. I can have awareness of the clock. I can have awareness of the cloth. So these are things I can do. I can direct my awareness to all of them. But that way I cannot have awareness of awareness, because you cannot direct awareness to itself. It's not an object, but one can understand what it is. The way, another example is light. So by the light, one can illumine all the objects which are in darkness. Wherever you focus the light, that object will be illumined. But to reveal the light itself, you don't have to focus the light on the light. You can't do it, and nor do you need to do it, because the light is self-luminous. It's always revealing itself. It illumines, it reveals itself, does not illumine itself. There's a lot of discussion about this in philosophy, about the question of self-reflexivity. Can a thing operate upon itself? And short answer, no, it cannot. So light cannot illumine itself. And so why not? Isn't light illumining itself? No. The definition of illumination, so these are very subtle matters. The definition of illumination is something in darkness is now revealed. You call that illumination. Was light ever in darkness that it has now to be revealed? No. Similarly, consciousness, awareness is not something that needs awareness. Vidyaranya Swami gives a nice example, I think. Panchadashi probably. So you add sugar to something to make it sweet. You add sugar to water to make it sweet. You should add sugar to milk to make it sweet. If you taste the water or the milk, you say it's sweet. What happened? Sugar was added to it. Now, how do you make sugar sweet? Do you add sugar to sugar? No. Sugar is unique in that way. It has intrinsic sweetness. It is sweet by itself, and it can lend its sweetness to others. Similarly, awareness is self-luminous. It reveals itself, and it can reveal other things. It doesn't require more awareness to become awareness. So when Rupert says awareness of awareness, this just language which he's using, right? You can't put it in any other way. Sri Ramakrishna uses exactly the same language. He says bodhe bodh, literally awareness of awareness, or awareness in awareness. Shiva says, so mind at the high level of highest purity, detachment is still as consciousness is a thin line where the difference between good, bad, sin, no sin all dissolves. Still at the level of the mind, we are all working upon it till the end. Yes and no. At the level of the mind, level of the body, this body-mind will continue. But this understanding, this realization, it dawns upon the mind, and there is an effect on the mind. When you realize that you are unlimited awareness, you are like the one sun which illumines the entire universe. Similarly, you're the one sun which illumines all life itself. Then the effect on this mind will be a thrill, a bliss, literally what the Americans call mind-blowing. So that's why it's the most, it's not an experience, and yet it is an experience. It's the most extraordinary experience, culmination of all experiences. So it's not true to say that even after you realize that you'll just keep on working on the mind till the end of your life. No, it's a huge before and after thing. It's a huge difference, enormous difference. All right, let's wrap it up here. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu.